We're live. We're answering your fantasy basketball questions. We're doing it right here on YouTube. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and don't do what Donnie don't does. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also, check out your favorite team's newsletter, lockedondaily.com. Sign up over there. You get little bits and pieces from me every day as well. Plus, all of the information from your team, from the podcasts, but also other articles, other bits of news right around the world. All right, here we are. Double banging, thumbing up. And if you are watching this live, that's what you got to do. You got to double bang. You got to hit that thumb, and you got to tell everyone that you're here. Share it out. Let's get some questions going. Now, for some reason, the tech on the live chat display is not working, and I'll be honest with you, I thought I was going to be able to fix it this morning in 10 minutes, and I couldn't, and I've just been so busy during the week that I haven't sorted it. So hopefully for next week we get it done. I am going solo today on this mailbag because, again, I was lazy in terms of getting someone. No, lazy is not the right word. I just got overwhelmed with a bunch of work and didn't get anyone else to come. But you know what? You know who my co-host is today? It's you guys. It's everyone here watching live in the chat, except for Ricardo. Everyone else, you are my co-host today. So let's talk. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about fantasy basketball. What is going on in the world of fantasy at the moment? Let's take a look at these questions that come through. All right, let's just start first of all with Jeremy 2. Is Okongwu a hold? I believe so. Yeah, last game wasn't great. We're well aware of that. But I don't think every single question that we're going to give here is going to be dependent on context. You're in an 8-team league and Yucca Pirtle's available, then what are you doing? Obviously, you go and add Pirtle. And I say that because multiple people today said to me, hey, I need to make the decision and add Pirtle. Okay. Didn't think that was going to be a question anywhere, but it was. So it's all going to be, give as much context as you possibly can in these questions. Would you buy low trade AD for Wemby? That's not a buy low trade, right? That's not a buy low trade. I mean, theoretically, if you think that Wembanyama is clearly ahead of Anthony Davis, then yeah, it is. But you know my take on trades. Anytime somebody sends you a trade, your immediate reaction, and before everyone gets this wrong, your immediate reaction internally should be no. You don't reply to them with no necessarily. You can, but your immediate gut reaction to it is no. That is what you think on a trade. And then talk yourself into it. Right? I'm not one that's just, let's just trade for the sake of it. And if I'm doing a buy low thing, the reason I want to do it is because I want to be able to find value and find somebody who is panicking or moving in a direction which I don't think is the correct way. And if I don't do that, then I don't do a trade. I'm not going to give up a trade where I think, hey, there's a good chance I'm going to be way worse off here just for goodwill. I'm not going to do that. Right? You could make an argument, given how the season has started, that AD is at least equivalent to Wemby or better. So I just don't know why you would bother doing that. What's the point of that? So, no, I wouldn't. CFE, that's just an impossible question to answer, but I'll answer anyway. Do you think Andrew Wiggins can maintain his value until April? A, don't play fantasy in April. What are you doing? That shouldn't be the thing. But also, who cares? This is the other part of when we're talking fantasy. We're here, we've done our drafts, we're all good and that sort of stuff. If you're in a daily changes, a head-to-head league, don't worry about April. Impossible to do. Look at what's happening this week, the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks. I've got no reason to think that Wiggins, who hasn't been spectacular, will be much, much worse in April, a time when you shouldn't play fantasy. But also, try to narrow your thinking down. Very hard to know what's going to happen with so many things at this point. What's a sell high target for Poole in points? Like, I am loath to give out individual names with trades, but like just think of it this way. Jordan Poole is going to have a million people being skeptical of what he does, rightfully so. He will not average 3 steals a game. He will not shoot whatever he's shooting 60% from 3. That is what is happening. Jordan Poole has a legitimate shot as a top 40 player. Don't know if he'll get there, but he's got a decent shot to suggest he'll be that player. If you could get a top 30 player back, a top 25 player back, that's what I would do. But otherwise, you just enjoy what is happening. That's how I would approach that one. Is Maxey a sell high? No, like he's actually performing worse than you would expect. So absolutely not. And that also digs into another part that when we talk about fantasy and the way that people value people, like why do we think that Tyrese Maxey is a sell high? I don't believe there's any world at all that Maxey is that player. Yeah, I know Embiid and George have been out, but like he's the 45th ranked player. Okay. He's averaging 31 a game, but that's not the be-all and end-all. He won't shoot 38% all season. I don't think he's going to only average 4.5 assists. So, no, he's not a sell high because, like, I would have said, like, especially the other day, like, he was a clear buy low. Who are good candidates to... I lost that one there, but anyway, Parker says it was about Dennis Schröder. Here's another question. Is Schroder a sell high? Like, obviously, yes. But all this stuff, and we are going to do a sell high show next week. I like to get 2 weeks of data behind us before we do anything like that. But sell highs are a great discussion in theory, and I think when I do the buy low, sell high shows, I'll talk more about this. It's great in theory. It's a great idea. It's almost impossible to pull off in the majority of scenarios because, like most people, if you are in leagues that are switched on, they understand what's happening most of the time. Although, and this is why I love the interaction. I love the comments that people bring through because it does show like different perspectives. Because someone said to me, why would you say that Schroeder has no chance of this keeping up? His minutes are going to be there. His usage is going to be there. And I would say, yeah, but or it's not. He's playing 35 minutes a game. He's got a usage of 24. That's not particularly high. I do think that comes down. And I do think at some point there'll be some change here. But he's shooting 56% from 3. And that is not going to stick. And if he starts going through a slump or he's a 33% shooter, does his 35 minutes become 33? Does he give up 1 or 2 shots per game? Right, so it does exist in some circles. But Schroeder is absolutely dominating at the moment. He's putting up top 20 numbers, which they don't have any chance of holding. Is Dennis Schröder a top 100 guy rest of season? I don't know. I think it's relatively borderline that he's going to be that good. He might be. For reference on Schroeder, the last 3 seasons, his 2-point percentage has been 47, 46, 47.8. This season, it is 54. His 3-point percentage has been 37, 33, 34. This season, it is 55. This is just giving you a spoiler for when we do the buy low, sell high next week. His true shooting is 72.3. His true shooting the last 3 years has been 55, 55, 54. All below league average. So yeah, it's not holding to not even close to this level. If I could get, I'll give you broad ranges, a top 70 player for Dennis Schröder, I actually think I might do it. I'd probably look top 50, but if I could get top 70, I would do it. But, most people also won't believe in Dennis Schröder, and that's okay. Do I have any guess when Emmanuel Quickley will be back? Absolutely no idea. No idea. That injury is a very weirdly designated injury. I would hope that he's back by the start of next week, but I just don't know. Jonathan Gerwitz, where does Bilal finish in Basketball Monster rankings for the rest of the year? It's a really good question. Bilal has been awesome to start this season. We all are aware of how good he has been. This is a team that still is sort of finding its feet. I expected Bilal to start and play 30-plus minutes. I didn't think 35 minutes, and I didn't think he'd be as big of a usage player as he has been. Not that he's been a sky-high usage guy, but he's at 18. I thought he'd be more like 15. But another thing to look at, he is shooting 72% on 2s and 42% on 3s, and he's got a Schroeder-esque 72% true shooting, which has, of course, 0 chance of holding. At the moment, he's a top 50 player. I think realistically, if you got a top 100 season out of Bilal, top 80 season, you'd be pretty happy, would be my guess. But these are the hidden things. And I know field goal percentage is something that is a category in a lot of leagues, but it's not in points leagues. It's just not, right? So people don't always see that. But it's very obvious to anybody who breathes that he is not a 59% shooter. He is not Daniel Gafford. Like, he is not a 59% shooter. For as good as he's been, as much as we love Bilal, there's no way. Right? That is not holding. It might be a 10 percentage point drop. This man shot 43% last season. He is not a 59% shooter. And that is driving almost everything. Because remember, percentages, 3-point percentage, and then field goal percentage. 3-point percentage changes 3 categories. 2-point percentage changes 2 categories. So when one's way above, it's a triple multiplier. And when it comes way down, well, it's the opposite of that, isn't it? These are all of the key little hidden things, which I don't think are that hidden, but they're still pretty hidden. Will Jalen Green continue at this level all year long? I don't even know the numbers. I haven't looked at his percentages necessarily, but I'm just going to tell you no. Because if you ask that question, the answer is nearly always going to be no. Jalen Green, from memory, and I'm just bringing up his numbers, is shooting 1 million threes a game. 1 million threes a game. Let's take a look at his numbers. Actually, you know what? Jalen Green is actually doing it on sustainable percentages. I take it back. What he is doing that's different is taking 11 threes a game. He took 7 last season. Can he continue to be a 29-point per game scorer? I don't think so. He's got a usage of 31, which is well above last season as well. So I'll say no, he can't continue at this level, but I'm not going to... there's nothing massively unsustainable about the actual percentages. It's just the volume that's sky high with Jalen Green. So there you go. So no, I'd be pretty doubtful that Jalen is able to keep up that level of production at least. Is he been really good? Obviously, yes, he's been awesome. But that level of production seems unlikely. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle all of the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place all of your bets, live bets on the NFL, all in one place. You're watching the middle of a game and something's going on and you see something developing, Thursday Night Football happening today, and you open up the app and instead of having to go to different pages to see the live stats or to see the live play-by-play, it's all there in the one spot where you would place those live bets. So head to FanDuel.com right now to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Nice and early for me here today. Just another reminder, LockedOnDaily.com is where you can get your newsletter for your favorite team. And if you are here in chat, have you signed up to your favorite team's newsletter? If you haven't, do it for me. Not only it helps, it actually does help support me and this channel and my work, but you will get information on your favorite team. It costs you nothing. LockedOnDaily.com. Sign up for every team if you want, but just sign up for your favorite team. LockedOnDaily.com. It does actually help me out quite a lot. Let's take a look at more of these chat questions. There are a lot of them. Any updates for Brandon Miller's injury? Not that I've seen. No, I don't believe there's been any updates on that. The thing was about a week, I think they initially said, and we're at that time now. I don't think that we are at... we don't think we've got any particular updates yet. I don't expect that there's going to be anything specifically in terms of long-term stuff going on with him. But, you never know. Things can always go off the rails really quickly. How sad will I be when Barnesy retires and I can't do the sound effect anymore? I won't be because I'll just put it onto Scotty Barnes. I'm sure another Barnes will come through as well. How long do we wait until we panic about Wemby, week 4 or 5? BQ. Why bother? What is the point of panicking? I said this on yesterday's show. What does it do for you? Does it make your team better? Does it make Wemby play better? Does it make your opponents worse? All panicking can do is lead you to a bad decision. So, will I panic about him? Never. Am I annoyed that he took 5 shots? Yeah. Do I think that this is any way sustainable? 100% no. No way. He will be better. And I know there's going to be the people who are loving chucking out a victory. Oh, it was so stupid. Why would anybody have considered Wemby at number 1? Well, because he's the number 1 player for the last 3 months of last season. That's pretty much why. And he finished, 10th or whatever, playing 29 minutes a game. And he's a second-year player, and efficiency usually almost universally rises in those players. And every projection that I had, which was 23 and 12 with 3.8 blocks and 4 assists and 1 steal, projected him to be the number 1 player. Using those traditional metrics. Again, Durant did push him down a bit, but that's okay. So, I don't think anyone should sit here, again, 4 games in, and say how ridiculous it was to consider him as a number 1 player. So yeah, don't panic. Is Devin Vassell playing back-to-backs? Definitely not. Especially early on, there's no way he will be. You're coming off foot surgery. This delayed the start of the season. There's no way he will play back-to-back. So that's just not going to happen. He might later on, but when he comes back, there is no shot that he is doing that. I saw a question there about the Jedi, OG Ananobi, who has been struggling. Salim says, do I think that OG will get better? He looks like a bust. I guess it depends on what your expectation was for OG. My expectation was that he'd be about a 15-point per game scorer. He hasn't been. Why is that? Is it because his usage is down? Yep, that's a part of it. And that part, I'm not certain. But he's also shooting not well. 28% on threes. 60% on twos is right. It was 58 last year. That's a little high. But 28 on threes. He shot 38 last year, 38 the year before, 36 the year before. 10 percentage point jump. You add an extra half a three to 0.8 threes. Let's just call it extra 2 points a game. His 11 points go to 13.5. He then gets 13.5. He's only blocking 0.3 shots, so that's less than half of his usual rate. So, yeah, it's not good. I'm not going to say that he's a bust. The minutes are in line. The percentages are going to come up. And the blocks are going to come up. I think the troubling part is he's just not getting any rebounds at all. It hasn't been a good start. And the usage is the part that we do have to worry about. Without question, that is a real worry. Is Nurkic a worry or bound to go up? No, it's a worry. It's a worry for sure. I don't think they can get away with playing small ball and Mason Plumlee a lot. So I do think he's going to improve. And we literally have one example of that 2 games ago. But when 3 of the 4 are bad, that is a worry in terms of how they are going to use him. I don't think we're dropping him, but I think we're moving off of that. Which coach is worse, Willie Green, Billups, or Kidd? It's Chauncey Billups by a mile. Willie Green has been really bad this season. Jason Kidd was one of the worst coaches in the NBA. He has improved a lot. I won't say that he is a great coach, but he has improved a lot, and he does not belong anywhere near these guys in terms of who is the best or worst coach. It is Chauncey Billups by a mile. Willie Green is there. Glenn Rivers, maybe we'll throw his name into that mix at some point. What's the point in drafting Wemby number 1 there? I don't know if you're replying to me about that, but the point of drafting Wemby number 1 is you thought he'd be the best player or that he's fun. Is Grayson Allen a drop in 12-team 9-cat leagues? Yes. Yunbo G, I don't think he should have been drafted to begin with. And to me, he's a very, very clear drop and should have been immediately. Did I pick number 1? Wemby number 1? Yes. If you did, do I regret it? No, because it's 4 games. You have to... this goes with a lot of things in life. Who wants to settle down, kids, and sit on old Josh's lap here for a life story? This goes with a lot of things in life, right? Can we, what does regretting it do? The process, I believe, was sound. And if your process is sound, the majority of your results will come through positive. You will never get everything right in anything you do. It's impossible to do, and you've got to accept that and learn to live with it. But if your general process on stuff is correct, you're okay with that. That's why, when people are man, I can't believe you're telling people to draft Jordan Poole again after last season. Yeah, because I thought my process was correct. And I continue to think my process was correct with Jordan Poole this season, and so far it has worked. He won't be this good, guaranteed. He will not stay this good. But the process is what is more important. And you will have individual failures. People will gloss over all of the successes. And do I regret it? Sure, 4 games, I could have had someone better. But no, I don't. We'll see where it goes. And we'll revisit this conversation in 3 weeks' time. But no, I don't. Should Trey Mann be kept after Brandon Miller returns in a 14-team points league? Well, Emils, this is a broader question about the philosophy of fantasy basketball. Should he be kept? The answer is yes, but not for the reason you think. You're in a 14-team, so yeah. But you don't have to make that call. You don't have to make that decision with someone who is playing so well, who they featured heavily through the preseason anyway, and it's very easy. Play the 240 game. It is actually very easy, given how they're doing things, to get him 28 minutes a night anyway. And yeah, some of that usage will come down. But you know who also sucks? Miles Bridges. And he's not even getting any usage anyway, so he might actually be marginalized somewhat. That is possible. But the thing is, you don't have to make that call. You can wait until Miller comes back. You can see what they do with Trey Mann. And if Trey Mann plays 20 minutes a night in those games, then you move on. I think we focus so much as well in fantasy about, what do I do in 2 weeks' time when this happens? Don't worry about it. Because when we get there, you know what might happen? Knock on wood, LaMelo's injured. Miles Bridges is injured. Trey Mann becomes a star, whatever. Something else happens. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 hours in the NBA. There's going to be some random thing happen, some random injury, let alone me trying to plan to see what would happen in 3 weeks' time. Use your mental energy playing this game somewhere else, because there's no point in that. Is Derek Jones Jr. worth holding until Kawhi? Yeah, absolutely. He is playing well at the moment. I'm not sure how much that continues, but he's playing really well. And when someone's playing really well and Kawhi's return is not imminent, do it. Why not? What is Mobo's upside in points leagues? Well, it is lower than it is in category leagues. We'll say it that way. I still remain somewhat skeptical about Mobo, what happens when a Olynyk returns. But for now, I think Mobo just should be on a roster in 12-team category leagues. Points leagues, it's debatable. Go and have a look at how he fared in your points league yesterday. Yesterday, not like a crazy game to consider as a sort of benchmark point for what he does as a starter. I think he'll also be able to hit those numbers later in the season too. But in the short term, you're treating him just like a short-term stream guy, and that's okay. Who's my pick for this year's Rookie of the Year? It's Alex Sarr. It was Alex Sarr before the season began. It's still Alex Sarr now, without really any question. What are my thoughts on Walker Kessler? Big guy, plays for Utah, white, square head. What is wrong with Quickly? He has a pelvis injury. Do I have any advice about proposing trades? Honestly, I'll be upfront with you. I don't really propose trades ever. I did accept a trade before the season, and I'll be honest with you, I did it accidentally. I thought that I was, as a commissioner, going through all of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball leagues, which there are millions of them, and just processing trades and looking at them. Oh, that trade seems okay. So I just hit process, and it was actually a trade to me, and I don't even remember what it was. But how do you go about doing it? Especially 2-for-1 trades. Send out 2 for 1. Chuck them out and see what happens. Usually, and I think most people agree with this, if you are doing trades, you can either send the trade out, but you want to send something with it, a note, a DM attached to it. Like, hey, I'm thinking of this. I want this player. What do you think about this? Starting point. As a usual discussion in negotiations, you want to go, you'll go lower initially, they'll go higher, and this try and find the middle ground. If you throw out what your best offer is initially, then chances are that's not going to work out particularly well in terms of a negotiation. But having a conversation, either that's before a trade gets sent out or attached to the trade, I think he's going to be a winner the majority of the time. How many more games are we sitting on Sexton before he gets the boot? Mac Attack, that's a good question, and that really depends on your format. If you're in a shallow league, you just do it now, right? What's the point in an 8-team league or a 10-team league holding onto a guy who might be your second best or your second worst player if all things hit? Maybe. 12-team, it gets a little bit more dicey, but it's been bad. The indicators are all bad. The indicators of what I heard in the preseason were bad. The indicators now in terms of the way that he's sort of, I say attitude, that sounds negative, that's not what I mean. But the way that he's sort of dealing with things and the way the team's using it are bad. So it's also going to depend on what if you got a lot of other struggles on your team, what's your waiver wire looking like? But the easy way to I guess quantify this is Sexton a must hold at all spots? No. Meaning that he moves into that from don't drop him, which is the Wembanyama's struggling, Zion's struggling, don't drop them. That's stupid, don't do that. He moves into the I can see why you would. Versus the situation of why are you holding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? Has your brain fallen out of your ass? They are the 3 categories. Brain ass category, the maybe, and the are you stupid? Which I guess the brain ass and stupid might be the same, but they're just different ends of the stupidity spectrum. We'll come back. More questions. Get your questions loaded up. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time Picks, you know what it is. Well, maybe you don't, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Game Time Picks is the newest feature from Game Time that enables you to get the tickets to see your favorite sports team, your favorite live performer, live. Cheaper. Better. It cuts out all the fluff. It filters through the ticket options that are available to you, and it finds the best ones for you. What more could you want? Well, they'll tell you what more you want, because they'll give you views from your seat. They'll show you exactly what it looks like when you get to the stadium/arena/whatever, and see what it's going to look like. They'll give you a lowest price guarantee. If you find that same ticket in the same row somewhere else, you get 110% credit of the difference back. You've got the event protection cancellation. You've got the job loss protection. You've got so many things. Game Time Picks is just piling on and piling on and piling on advantages. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. as we go back in to see all of you lovely people here co-hosting the show with me. Who are some sell highs? Not Ryan. I'm going to do a show on that next week. How do I feel about Booker? Totally fine. Do I think Filipowski can push ahead of Collins in Utah? It has literally already happened. It's already happened. You saw it last game. First big off the bench, Filipowski. Started in place of Markin and Filipowski. Collins is basically playing only as a backup center. He's not really playing any forward at all. Now, that could change completely in the next game, but so far, that has been the pattern, and Filipowski was ahead in Will Hardy's book last game. So, is that what we take from it? I don't know, but it literally did happen already. What should you do with Miles Bridges? Hold or trade? 10 ESPN points. Wembanyama, that's a really good username, but that also brings up a more important point. What should you do with Miles Bridges? Hold or trade? Why would you trade somebody? Now, obviously, you were saying this, man, this guy sucks. What am I doing? Why would you trade him away? That is the worst time to do this. Always ask yourself this question, Wembanyama. Look at what he is doing and go, can I see him being worse than this? And if the answer is yes, then consider trading. But if you go no, there's how? It's not going to be worse, then don't trade him away. It could not be a worse decision to do that. Now that would also depend on what your trade partner is. If your trade partner goes, Miles is easy, like a top 50 player, and they give you that guy back, then yeah, you immediately do it. But if you're looking at this and go, man, this guy sucks, this is terrible, what am I doing? It's safe to say the other managers in your league who know what they're doing are going to be like, why would I give up anything if this guy's willing to get off him now? It is the worst thing you could do. A sell low is the worst thing possible. It's literally no point to it. Look at what he's doing and go, how could it get worse? Talk about probabilities. Talk about the odds of something. Is there a 5% chance it gets worse? Maybe. But you take those odds every time, yeah? And approach that with any player you're talking about. Is it worth holding a Kongwei in Roto or drop for streaming? Salim, another good question from you, but it's a question that needs addressing. You don't stream in Roto. It's not a thing. You don't do it. You've got games caps. Unless you don't, and then your Roto league is weird. But you don't stream in Roto. That's not how that works, but yes, he's a hold. Would I drop Drummond to stream since he's not really performing with the opportunity? Derek, I would consider that, yeah. He's been fine. I won't say he's been dominating or anything like that, but that's just going to depend. I think that streaming is obviously really important, right? And it's going to get you a lot of wins. I don't think that streaming needs to be of utmost importance in the middle of week 2. I think when you hit week 4, you really need to start looking, hey, my team is struggling a little bit. I need to start maxing out stuff. But yeah, I also understand that Drummond's going to have, honestly, no value when Embiid is back unless Embiid sits. That is it. And even then, we have seen it is not sky high. So as a general thing, I don't think that he's a must-hold. Do you drop Drew Holiday in 10 points leagues? I talked about this yesterday. I don't see the purpose in having him as a must-hold in that sort of a situation. Any updates on Desmond Bane? We just know that he's out with an oblique strain, and that's probably it's a muscle strain, so we're talking probably minimum 7 days, I would guess, up to 10 days, maybe more, but that's all we know. Lumberjack says, do I listen to any other fantasy podcasts? I tried to, maybe about 3 years ago, I was in a situation where I didn't listen to any other fantasy content at all. I was like, I don't want my ideas to be influenced by somebody else, right? But now I have become bolder, more confident, more powerful in my own beliefs and my inner strength that I'm okay with it. I have my ideas. I analyze everything myself. I have all my takes, and I don't actually get influenced by other people in that way. So now, yeah, I listen to as many fantasy podcasts as I can because A, I want to hear what other people are saying and thinking. I want to hear how the industry is viewing guys and how that does maybe cause self-reflection. I go back and do I need to reassess on this player? But also gives me an idea. I go, well, hey, all these people are saying this. I don't actually agree with that. Maybe we go the other direction here. So yeah, I do listen to a lot of, I would say, probably not because yeah, there's going to be little podcasts everywhere. I listen to, I would say every fantasy basketball podcast that is out there. Is Zubats a sell high in a points league? Sure, but no. Is he a sell high in that, will he continue at this level? Probably not. He probably won't continue at this level, but will he be much better than the price you paid at draft time? Yes. So, as a general rule, hold on to it and see what happens. Sell high does not mean you must sell a player, by the way. With how big Dick Nick is playing, is Mark Williams in danger of a timeshare a la Okongwu Capella? I would say it's unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out. He's been really good. Obviously, Williams has had a lot of injury concerns. I wouldn't rule that out. that it's going to be a timeshare. I don't think that'll be the case, but it is we do this every year with every player. Remember Omer Yurtseven? Remember that? Who was another great one from years past? It was someone else that was like a guy that was doing pretty well as a starter. Go, oh, maybe it'll happen, and then he would come back. Go Gubadadze. And then he went from starting and playing to playing 0 minutes. So it's possible. I think it's unlikely. Do I think Harden is a shutdown candidate at the end of the season? No, not really. Like, they don't own their draft pick. There's no incentive for them to be worse. None whatsoever. So no, I don't. Do I think Markkanen's playing? No idea, Giuliano. Like, that's just flip a coin, mate. You'll get an equally easy answer. Do I play basketball myself? No, I'm a 44-year-old man with a torn ACL, so no, I don't. And basketball wasn't a game that I played growing up. I played other sports. So no, I definitely don't play now. Is Kuminga a drop 12-team points? He's like, what for? Who are you adding? Think about that every time you think if someone is a drop. Do you think we should move to a point in fantasy where your starters are all flex spots? Yeah, like, I'm not against that. I think it's totally reasonable. I think the point guard, shooting guard designations are unnecessarily restrictive because, unlike other sports, basketball doesn't have positions like that. You don't go in and submit a lineup, which, you're playing baseball, and you got to say, well, this guy's actually our shortstop, this guy's fielding center field. You have to write it down. In football, he's our quarterback, these guys are our tight ends, these are our receivers. Like, you can see where they are, right? You can see the positions they play. In basketball, it's like, here's 5 guys. You don't have to designate anything. You can play 5 point guards if you want. You can play 5 centers if you want. So then you are at the mercy of the fantasy provider to give somebody positional eligibility. Now, I don't know whether Alex Sarr has center eligibility on Fantrax. He didn't to begin the year. He just got it on Yahoo. But like, he started every game except for one at center. So when do we make that switch? So I like to take the responsibility for fantasy decisions out of the hands of somebody else, which is like a fantasy provider, whether that's providing, we're going to put this guy on injured reserve and that opens up a spot for you. That's why AL Plus is better. We're going to move, this guy's position to this. Like, there are so many stupid positions across those fantasy sites anyway that, I tend to agree we want to be less restrictive on that stuff. We've got one more question before we get out of here. I'm just going to search through for what is a good one or what is one that's funny. What have we got? Thomas Kunz, this isn't the question, but when do I think Jimmy Butler retires? I don't know and I don't care. All right, let's go. Let's chuck me your best questions. What do we got? Go through. I'll answer this one while I wait for a good one. Şengün or Cat in a points league? Like, don't worry about it. Have a look. What do they average in your points league? Understand that Cat had a few down games and Şengün had a few down games and they both can improve. It's almost certainly Şengün, but I'm not sure it's that big of a difference that you need to make any sort of like decision on that. All right. Where are we? One more question. I'm just trying to find the best question here. Would you drop a Kongwu for Keontae George in a points league? Look, this leads to a larger discussion for points leagues. Very obviously, yes. Because points leagues, you know what's important? Minutes and usage. Yeah, fantasy points are obviously the key factor there, right? But if you want to just tie in and create a decision, who plays more minutes? Keontae. Who gets more usage? Keontae. Who's a better points league player? Keontae. Really, really, really easy stuff, which is just a lesson to keep in your head about points leagues. It doesn't work 100% of the time. Because if it did, what would be the fun of this? But yeah, to me, that's a relatively easy one, and it's a good lesson to just have through in your head. Cooper or Ace Flag? I don't know anything about Ace Flag, so I'll say it's Cooper at this point. Top 5 Jordan models. I'd have to think on that. Maybe I'll come back to that at a later point. We've got one more question. How do I feel about betting on rookies or betting in trades? I have no idea what that means. Who's betting on trades? Do you mean like, as in go to like FanDuel and say like, I bet this player is going to be traded? I think it's stupid. Am I worried about Isaiah Stewart? This is the last question. Am I worried about Isaiah Stewart stealing Jalen Duren's minutes? Yes. And I was worried about that all off-season. I said it many, many times. I do not think that Isaiah Stewart, a man that this organization built themselves around, don't lie, they built themselves around him, would go from a 31-minute-a-night player to a 14-minute-a-night backup while Duren gets 34. Didn't think it would happen. Now, that puts an artificial cap, or not artificial, it's a real cap on Duren's minutes, and we'll see he plays 29 minutes every night. Someone told me that I don't watch any games because Duren's defense is actually pretty good. So I don't think it's going to move into a minute split where it's 24-24, but I think that they're not getting into a spot where Stewart is playing fewer than 18 to 20 minutes. That's not happening, I don't think. So that does really cap, I believe, what Jalen Duren is going to be able to provide. And that will bring us to the end of a live mailbag. Sorry if your question didn't get answered. If you want to drop it in the comments section below, myself or others will look at that and perhaps give you an answer. We'll do our best to get to as many of those as possible. But in the meantime, hit the thumb and double bang. We'll be back with a Friday 9-game preview and a Thursday 4-game recap coming up later today as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.